Morning Bucknutters. It's Tuesday, November 15th, 2016. I'm Dan Rubin. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5 and Change, joined as always on Tuesdays by Duane Long. Duane, how goes it?
Sitting on pins and needles, waiting on what's going to happen tonight at 7.
And we will get to that in detail. We'll put a thread on the front row late last night for some questions. Got a few responses, and everyone pretty much has the same question, so we're going to hit the basics today. First, let's take a quick look back at the dismantling of Maryland over the weekend. Pretty much what you expected. Anything better or worse that we should be worried about?
Well, I wasn't expecting them to throw 62 on Maryland, but I love how the team looks. You know, you're looking at it right now and you're saying, okay, what do we need to work on? And I don't know if you can find a thing. They're a typical Urban Meyer team, finding their game late in the season. After a loss, Urban Meyer's teams have come back with a whole different level of fire and focus after a loss. And I guess there's just not a lot to complain about. Just finding their game at the right time of year.
No question. They were very impressive against Wisconsin. I loved how they approached the Maryland game. There was no dilly-dallying. It was 45-3 at half, and the second half was really about keeping those red shirts ablaze and such. So very impressive, and get in, get out, get it done, especially a team like Maryland that was beat up from the week before against the team up north. Okay, let's look ahead to this weekend. Michigan State has had a moribund season. Michigan State actually has lost to Maryland and Illinois. Put that through your brain a couple times. But they did get the chance to play Rutgers this past weekend, scored 49 points. Does that mean Michigan State has come to hit their stride, or does it mean Rutgers is really trying to break some kind of negative record?
Rutgers is the worst team in college football maybe this year. I mean, it's awful. That is a mess. How many times have they, 49 to a Michigan State team that lost to Illinois and Maryland. That right there says it all. They're just, Michigan State has been bad. I've watched them several times on offense. You look at, it's just not the same level of offense. They've had back-to-back, good quality quarterbacks and good offensive lines, and right now they're not very good at either. They don't move people, and I'm used to seeing Michigan State move people. I mean, when we go back to last year, look at the Ohio State game, we look at the offense and the ridiculous play calling, but also they just lined up and ran right at us. They were able to keep the ball, and this year you just don't see that. So I'm not worried about that. I don't like the weather conditions. I don't know what happens to this staff when they get them in bad weather. They absolutely seem to lose it. And, we can go back to that Michigan State last year and look at that game and see what happened in bad elements. So let's hope. We've got every reason to believe we should walk in there and smack them around. They're just not a very good team, and we're quite a good team. We'll see what happens. There's a lot of, they've beaten us when we thought they shouldn't have beat us. They shouldn't have beat us last year. 2 years ago and 3 years ago in the Big Ten championship game, I still thought we were a better team, but, that team, it played us tough and it ended up winning that football game. We'll see. I just don't see this team having that level of talent, though. I'm not greatly worried about this, but the recent history says let's not live past them. Let's go ahead and play this game.
This is their Super Bowl. They're not going to be going to a bowl game. The way they can, it's interesting. Michigan State's not going to a bowl game, and yet it's going to play a major role here down the stretch in the way the Big Ten works out, because after this weekend, they go and play Penn State. So if they just wanted to roll up into a ball for us this weekend, then go whip Penn State's ass, that would be a nice gesture. But it certainly will be a little bit of a different experience this week. Okay, let's talk about the other team in that state that tends to generate some page views around here, and that is the University of Michigan. Their quarterback, Wilton Speight, he is injured and will not play this weekend for Michigan against Indiana. It looks like he's going to be out for the rest of the season. Khaki Pants won't come out and say that for real, but we're going to get John O'Corn this week instead of Wilton Speight. Speight had really come along and was kind of the anchor of their passing offense. I'm not saying he was anything great. Played better this year than I expected. How do you think this affects Michigan going down the stretch?
Nobody can tell me that this is not going to affect them psychologically. This has been their guy. He's gotten them almost to, he got them to 9 wins, top 5 in the country. And now he's gone, and they're going into Ohio State, who is a top 5 team, and they don't have their field general. Don't tell me this isn't in their heads. I refuse to believe that they're going. I mean, and something you said, Speight has been solid. He's not been great. Well, when he's their best guy, well, the second best guy is probably not going to be as good. We can assume that, or he would probably be in there. We'll see. One thing that I liked, Speight was not real mobile. I don't know about this O'Corn. I don't remember ever seeing him. I like having quarterbacks that you don't have to worry about them breaking the pocket and hurting you. So let's hope this guy, our rush has been consistent. We haven't got the sack numbers we want, but we've got consistent pressure all year. Guys are getting rid of the ball, and quarterbacks making bad throws, throwing the ball away. It's not as good as a sack, but it's still highly effective, and we're good at that. I would rather have the guy in there that just doesn't move well, and we can keep him in one spot and get to him. So we'll see with this O'Corn, but it really goes back to the psychological thing. They're going in a key man down into the lion's den. So don't tell me that's not affecting them.
Yeah, O'Corn is a little bit more mobile. He ran a little bit when he was at Houston, but he's certainly no Braxton Miller back there. And I would agree with you. Both Michigan State and Michigan play a little more traditional football. Going to try and run it right at us, and the quarterback's going to be in the pocket. I do not think that will work against this group at Ohio State. I'm very confident about this weekend. I'm equally confident about the Michigan game. I always kind of have been and was waiting for someone to prove it. Now, Iowa kind of did that for me. So now let's get to the topic that everyone probably wants to chat about, and that is Ohio State and the immediate and long-term future. We're going to assume here, for purposes of this discussion, that Ohio State wins its final 2 games over Michigan State and Michigan. Otherwise, they're not going anywhere. So, Duane, do you expect them to be number 2 tonight? And do you expect that? We'll just start with that. Do you expect them to be number 2 tonight when the rankings come out?
If the committee is just supposed to put the 4 best teams into the playoffs, Ohio State has to be in there. You look at, even the losses to a team now ranked in the top 10. The strength of schedule is nobody can come close to what Ohio State's done. And because of just rules, Ohio State does not get to play in the Big Ten championship game, and that keeps them out, then the committee is not doing its job of putting the 4 best in. If it's got to be the conference champion, I don't know. I mean, then why do we even consider independence like a Notre Dame? You can't do that. They've got to look at who are the 4 best teams. And we'll see tonight. I think we're a little vulnerable unless we're number 2. Moving into the top 4 is not good enough. That, to me, is the committee saying strength of schedule is not as important as the championship game. That's going to be a problem. Moving us into number 2, I think we're probably pretty safe. I don't see any way that we win out and we're number 2, and just because of how the conference championship games go, we're going to drop out of the top 4. That just doesn't make sense to me.
There are very few things about stuff these days that gets me genuinely fired up, where I purposely have to not think about it because I get upset, and this is one of them. If we're going to use strength of schedule, they need to actually use it and do some, not just look at the schedule and say, oh, look at this. Ohio State had to play I say this all the time, on the road, at night, in back-to-back games against teams coming off a bye. I don't think anybody else in the country, first of all, was asked to do that. So if they don't win the national championship this year because of their scheduling, that's going to be on the people who make the schedule. If you gave Ohio State, by choice, the hardest schedule possible. So let's just say if it plays out the way we think. You're going to have Wisconsin, Penn State in the championship game. I think Wisconsin will win. They'll have a win over them. You're going to have Oklahoma as the Big 12 champion. You're going to have a win over them on the road. You're going to have a win over Michigan. You're going to have a win over Nebraska, who was ranked 10th at the time. The other schools' resumes don't even come close. They're not even in the same ballpark. So if strength of schedule is any concern, and they look to any nuance, which is the circumstances of the Penn State game, they have to be in. Now, will that happen? I don't know. We'll know tonight. If they're number 2 tonight and they went out, I still think they will go. Now, here's the question I have for you. Is Ohio State being Ohio State, meaning arguably the number 1 draw nationally? That includes television ratings. Do you think Ohio State's stature as a program gets them the benefit of the doubt going forward?
Well, I think that is something they may not have a discussion about. I don't know if that's, something they consider, as part of their criteria, but in the back of their heads, they've got to be thinking about selling this thing. You're going to bump Ohio State for Louisville? Seriously? Come on, these are smart people. Ratings matter. Ratings mean ad revenue. You got to make money. So I think it's something that they will have in the back of their head, that they can put one of the crown jewels of college football in the playoffs rather than a basketball school. So, yeah, I think it's going to at least be in their heads, yeah.
I guess my final question would be, is this the final straw in getting us an 18 playoffs? Because leaving Ohio State out with 1 loss, I think would provide the political impetus to do that.
Oh, I think we're headed to 8. I've argued that we should go with 6, give the top 2 seeds a bye, and go with 6. But 8's fine with me. But there's got to be more than 4. 4 is just not enough. We're seeing that, every year we've had major controversies over this, the teams not making it in. So I think and who's going to complain about more? Nobody. We get a couple of more games of college football. I mean, we all go into minor depression when college football season's over. So, yeah, let's go on. Let's add a couple of more teams at least. We can add 4 more. Let's go. Yeah, and I think that leaving Ohio State out after a school with the prestige of Ohio State out after 1-loss season, especially the way they're playing right now. Let's consider current form. Scored 120 points in the last 2 weeks, gave up 6. This team is playing extremely well. Alabama is, in my opinion, the only team in the country that can beat the team we're seeing the last 2 weeks.
I'd agree. But I'd also think that Ohio State is the team best suited to go after Alabama.
I agree with that. I think so, too. I think Ohio State can beat Alabama. I'm just saying Alabama is the only team I think can beat Ohio State.
And we'll leave it there. People, tonight, keep it locked into Bucknuts. The playoff rankings will be announced. We will have the release of the rankings. We will have analysis. We will have insight from those across the college football landscape. Keep it locked in. Have a good one, Bucknutters.